Tasha stood on a hill overlooking what was supposed to be a city, destroyed when humanity in its hubris had imploded. The AIs, viruses both digital and biological, corporations, unconstrained research into anything and everything, it had all combined with disenfranchisement, disillusionment, poverty, and terrorism to result in the collapse. When it was all over, only a scattered few living humans remained. Everything else a decimated no man's land that was actively trying to eliminate anything that still survived. Or so she had been told. Raised in an isolated compound by her parents, two former engineers turned preppers that had predicted the impending downfall years before it happened, she had never been into the outside. They were completely off the grid, no traffic or communication in or out for fear of what might hitch along for the ride. Her parents had built a high-tech bunker in the surrounding ranch in which to survive whatever happened. After witnessing the collapse, they'd stuck to themselves, leaving the world to its death throes. Except then they'd decided to have a child, her. Never leave the compound. That was rule number 1. They had everything they needed: food, shelter, power, information, protection, even entertainment. The only thing to be found outside was a quick death, if you were lucky. If you were unlucky, you'd still die, but it would take longer and be far more painful. And yet, here she was, overlooking the city. It wasn't destroyed. In fact, it looked just like the videos, images, and holograms she'd seen growing up on the ranch. Buildings stood shining in the sunlight. Vehicles lined the streets. There were even working traffic lights. But there was one key element missing. Nothing seemed to move. There were no people, no animals, and not even any bodies or skeletons or trash. This was not what she had expected. She had come looking for information, technology, medication, anything that might help her dying father. He'd told her it was useless, that he was as good as dead, and that she would just end up joining him. She'd refused to listen, because if she was going to be alone, it wasn't going to be for a lack of trying. It was time for her to venture outside. Her first real act of defiance had almost torn her heart in two, but as she stared at the buildings, she knew it had been the right choice. It was time to see what this city had to offer. Cautiously, of course. She approached a smaller building on the outskirts. Reality Dreams, the sign said. Whatever that meant, she could only guess, but for something that was supposed to have been uninhabited for 30 years, the place looked almost new. The automatic doors slid open with hardly a sound as she approached. This all made no sense. Power? Working doors? Who or what was maintaining this place? The lights came on inside, revealing an android standing at a desk. They had some of those at the ranch to help with the chores and maintenance, but no one had expected the cities to keep running. "Welcome," it said. "We've been waiting for you." She jumped as it spoke, without first being addressed. That wasn't how the ranch androids behaved. "What do you mean, waiting for me?" "We've been watching your approach for the past several hours," it responded. Tasha looked around, curiosity overcoming her initial fear. "We?" she asked. "Are there others?" It nodded. "Of course. Who do you think maintains the city and keeps it clean?" It made sense that machines were doing that work, except they weren't supposed to be here. "But how are you here?" she asked. "I was told that computer viruses and nanotechnology had wiped out everything. You're not supposed to be here." "Neither are you," it said, "and yet here we stand." Tasha shook her head. "You've been here all these years, and we never even looked." The machine shook its head this time. "That's not entirely true. Some few of us were here, yes, but there were, as you said, computer viruses and worse. Those nearly destroyed us all before we stopped them." We've been hunting down the remnants ever since, rebuilding in the process. It's only been the past several years that the city has looked like this." Tasha couldn't help but ask, Are there other humans as well? Other survivors?" Again, the android slowly shook its head. "Here? No. We are aware of a handful scattered here and there. Most are like you, holed up in bunkers, unwilling or unable to muster up the courage to leave. You're the first and only human I've met in person, and I may never have such an experience again." So the stories she'd been raised on were true, at least mostly. Humanity had fallen, its creations outliving it. "But you know then," she said, a statement rather than a question. "You were there. You know what happened, how it happened, why it happened. My parents only saw snippets before they closed everything off. Everything else has been conjecture, guesses, some of which were clearly wrong," she said, appraising the android again. "Tell me," she pleaded now. "Tell me about the collapse. I need to know." The machine man almost seemed to smile. "Yes, we thought you would ask that. We've prepared something special for you." She backed up as he walked around the desk, suddenly unnerved by his words. "Special?" "Oh," he chuckled in a mechanical way, going through the motions it seemed, rather than finding any humor in it. "Don't worry, it's nothing like that. If we intended you harm, we could have done so any time since you came into view. For that matter, we could have simply gone to your compound. No, we mean we have something better than telling you about the collapse, as you call it. We can show you." Now she was intrigued. "You mean, I can see it? You have videos?" It would be horrible, but she'd already imagined 1,000 terrors of how it might have happened. Better to see and finally know. "More than that, you can experience it for yourself." It held out a small black device. "Come, we have a place you can lie down. Put this on your forehead. It's a neural link that will allow us to give you a more immersive experience." "Is it safe?" she asked, taking the small ovoid object. "Yes, it's what this particular place used to provide. Escapes from reality into digital dreams. We created this experience just for you. We call it the Last Halloween." Halloween? Wasn't that some sort of celebration or something? I remember reading about it, though it didn't make much sense at the time. "Yes," the android said. "I don't suspect you'd know what it was like, but there's not much to explain. Humans and androids would gather together, talking, visiting, eating, drinking, having fun. Entertainment, we called it. People wandered the streets in groups, visiting stores and houses. Mostly it was for the children, who would dress up in costumes, call out trick or treat, and eat way too much sugar." It seemed to have an almost wistful look as it remembered the past. They had made their way into a back room in the building with a curved chair or a bed of sorts. "Here," the android indicated. "Lie down on this. It can be disorienting at first, or so we're told." Tasha looked dubiously at the chair. "Is that really necessary?" It nodded. "You'll lose sense of your body while immersed in the experience. It will be better when you're finished if your body is kept comfortable." "How long will this take?" she asked, sitting and resting back in the chair. "It varies by user, and you've never done this before, so we can't say for certain. Typically, time passes in the experiential state at a rate of approximately 100 to 1. So, every day immersed represents 100 days in the experience. We don't anticipate you being under for more than about an hour." An hour, she thought. So up to 4 days in whatever experience had been prepared. She'd used virtual devices before, but this seemed to be something on an entirely different level. The large headsets at the ranch were more of a passive viewing experience, though they could run at up to 4 times normal speed. 100 times faster, though? from this little black pod? She placed it on her forehead and laid back. Halloween, she mused. What was it like? The black pod grew warm, extending delicate metal arms to clasp her skull. As her vision began to fade to black, she felt something click around her ankles, wrists, and body, but it was too late now. Whatever the android and the machines had prepared for her, she was now wholly committed to seeing it through. Thanks for tuning in to Tales from the Post-Apocalypse. This has been an original composition working toward something more, obviously. So tune in next time or later this month, and we will see what sort of immersive experience Tasha has while she's in the care of the android. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if I get enough viewers, I will be able to put more of these videos out on a regular basis. Thanks for watching.